The Lord is my shepherd, and that's all I want. That if you allow the Lord to be the shepherd, He's going to give you some good stuff. He wants to get us to destination. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. Hey folks, welcome back to our journey of following the shepherd. I hope you're reading Psalm 23 every day. It's literally minutes. It'd be great to read it before every meal, to just soak in it and see what the Lord is showing you. And as you journal in it, follow our study guide. You hopefully by the end of this, you'll have it memorized. But remember, it's not about knowing Psalm 23. It's about knowing the shepherd of Psalm 23, so that you can say, the Lord is, say it with me, my shepherd. That there's that personal, intimate, belonging, faith, following, knowing the shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. Now remember, He guides us. We learned that in paths of righteousness, but not always paths of green pastures, not always still waters. And we're going to see this in the next verse, in Psalm 23, verse 4. Even though, let me just back up and read right up to it. I want to read to it. Verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love or mercy, could go either way. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. He guides me in right paths for His name's sake, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Let me tell you something. There's no if, there's no maybe. It's not about, it could happen randomly. You're going to walk through dark valleys in following the shepherd. You're going to walk through the darkest valleys, which is the shadow of death. Now, we always relate this to just physically dying, but I want you to understand that this verse in this psalm has been light in the darkness for more souls than we'll ever know, whether it's in a hotel room in a desperate place and battling addictions and finding a Gideon's Bible and not knowing where else to look but Psalm 23 and finding the light shining in that dark place of aloneness in a motel room, or that place of just getting the word that a loved one has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It rocks your world. Or finding out that someone that you care for deeply has taken the ultimate selfish step of committing suicide. I mean, it rocks me when I hear of people that I admire on television that commit suicide, let alone people that you know personally. But when you're in that place of grief, when you find out that somebody's been unfaithful to you and on you, and just that brokenness of what sin shatters us, it's in those times that we need the shepherd more than any. Yes, I need Him to lead me to green pastures. I can't find Him on my own. I need Him to guide me in right paths, or I'm going to wander astray. But when I really need the shepherd most is what David talks about, and buddy, he knew about dark valleys. He had a king that was insane with hatred of trying to kill him. David spent many a cold night in caves and hiding in the rocks. He knew what it was to be in those dark places of life. He knew what it was to be in dark places through his own personal sin and his own failures and the loss of his own child and consequence to his sins. He knew what it was to be in a dark place. He knew what it was, though, to be in a dark place and still be able to say, the Lord is my shepherd. He doesn't leave us in the darkness. It feels like it. There's a sense of seemingly the Lord being absent. There's this sense of not being aware of His nearness. But those are the times that faith must grab a hold of the character of our shepherd, that He's a shepherd that will never leave us and never forsake us. Now look what the first thing I want you to see about this walk through the valley is that word through. Even though I walk through. Now I love that word. And I remember I talked about like in Appalachian Trail hikers, that phrase, if you're a through, there are hikers that just kind of come on the trail for a day or two or a weekend and they're just kind of getting a little taste. But there's those that are committed to the journey. They're through hikers. And when you follow the shepherd, you're a through hiker. That means there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an ending. The valley is not a destination. It doesn't have a zip code. You're not going to camp out and live in the valley. The enemy wants you to feel that. When you're in grief, sorrow, pain, turmoil, trials, one of the darkest whispers that the enemy will come along and he'll say something like this: it's never going to get any better. You're never going to get out of this. There is no remedy. There is no solution. You're stuck. There is no end. You're only going to live in this pain, this loneliness, this place of sorrow and grief. And let me just tell you that it's a lie, because the Father never lets His sheep abide, live, and dwell in the land of darkness. You pass through it. He leads us into, it's part of the path. You better know that that's part of following Jesus, but you also better have confidence that He doesn't leave us in there. He leads us through there. Now, sometimes that deliverance will be getting to the Father's house. We pass through this life and we get on the other side. There is no pain that lasts forever to a believer, because there will come an end to every sorrow and every pain. So you got to get this idea of getting through. I like that phrase in the scripture, this too shall pass. But when you're in the middle of something, it feels like this is your assignment in life. You'll never get any better. There's no hope. There's no remedy. There's no cure. There's no solution. There's no way to untangle the mess that you're in. You're in a dark place. Well, I want you to have confidence that you have a shepherd that not only led you into it, but He's going to lead you out of it. And it's just a shadow of death. Now, that's important that He uses the word shadow. Shadows are intimidating, but they're toothless. Death has lost its teeth. The scriptures say that the Lord has taken the stinger out of death. It's like a bee can bite you once. He leaves the stinger and he can fly around and intimidate you like he's going to bite you again, but the reality is you can't bite me again. It's like a rattlesnake with no head, or with no fangs. I mean, they'll still be extremely intimidating. You could have a rattlesnake on this table right now, and you could say, Jamie, it has no teeth. They've been taken out. There's no venom. I'm still going to battle extreme intimidation by the shadow of that rattlesnake. So I'm not acting like death is no big deal, but we have to face death knowing it's a conquered foe. It's a defeated enemy. It's a shadow that we can fear. As Charles Spurgeon says, we'll fear dying 1,000 deaths in just walking through one death. The fear is far greater than the reality will be. To a believer, death is one of the easiest things that we'll ever do. Now, the process of it Could be a grueling sickness. It could be, nobody looks forward to that process. But the actual time of death itself, I love to look at it this way. As David says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. Why? For you are with me. Now, that phrase is in the very heart of this psalm. If there was a hinge or a bridge between the first half and the second half, right in the middle to highlight the heart of this psalm is those words, for you are with me. The reason we don't have to fear death or fear the darkest valleys is because of the presence of the shepherd. He's with me. Now, again, you don't always feel that, but you will have the grace in proportion to the need. Corrie ten Boom was a tremendous lady. They did a film, my kids never forgave me for showing it to them when they were younger, called The Hiding Place. It's pretty traumatic compared to movies today, nothing. But it was about the Nazi prison camps, concentration camps, and this lady and her family surviving them, and it was brutal. And Corrie ten Boom went on to be a Christian speaker, and I had a chance to hear her speak one time, and she would use very simple illustrations that were profound. But this one has always stuck with me. I know I'll think of it on my dying bed, and I've shared it with so many people on their dying beds. There are many people that are facing their mortality with cancer, stage 4 cancer, or some other life-threatening disease, and they know the end is near. You tend to want to project, what's it going to be like when I'm actually there dying? And you can have trauma and fear and anxiety because God doesn't give you grace until you get there. And He doesn't give grace to people that aren't dying for the person that is dying, in the sense that you have dying grace when you need dying grace. I can't lay in bed at night. I'll get all kinds of anxiety to think about. I've had dreams at night if I've been, I'm dying of this or dying of that, and I'll have this anxiety because there's no grace to contemplate what it'll be like because I'm not there yet. And so Corrie ten Boom said it this way, very practical. She said, and let me use, let me get like this is a ticket for the train. She says that the Lord never gives the ticket to get on the train until the train first pulls into the train depot. In other words, dying grace, think of that as the ticket. What you're going to need to walk through that valley with Him. He doesn't give you before the valley. He doesn't give it when you can see it in a distance. He gives you the grace, the ticket to get on the train. I'll never forget telling a wonderful man named Larry in our church. He was having lots of anxiety. He loved the Lord, knew he was dying. He kept having this anxiety that I'm just not ready. I'm not ready. I said, you're not ready, Larry, because the train's not here yet. And I gave him that analogy. And this was a brilliant man. He was a psychologist and just a brilliant man, a Christ follower. But that little simple thing, he goes, that's it. I don't need the ticket yet. The train's not here. And he would tell me that as he got weaker and weaker till he got to that point where he knew he had his ticket. Peace was there. Now, God gives you grace in proportion to what you need when you need it. And when you're in a dark valley, He's going to give you grace to get through that valley. Now look what He says. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. It's the presence of Jesus, not the strength of Jamie. It's the presence of Jesus, the shepherd, not the boldness or courageousness of the individual that's being heroic. I don't fear whatever I'm facing. Sheep are very fearful, anxious critters. If they went around saying, I don't fear anything, I'm not afraid, and people that walk around being, I'm not afraid, there's lots that you ought to be afraid of. And without Jesus, we ought to walk in all kinds of fear. But with Jesus, I have to overcome my fear by staying near the one that protects me. Now look what He says. He says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I love this about the shepherd. He's basically saying, my shepherd is a warrior. In John 10, where Jesus is describing being the good shepherd, He says the hireling, the one that's kind of paid by money to care for the sheep, when the wolf comes, The hireling runs from the wolf, leaving the sheep exposed and vulnerable. But we have a shepherd called the Good Shepherd who lays his life down for his sheep. He doesn't run. He's not scared of the wolves. Are there wolves? Absolutely. Are they vicious? You better believe it. Darkness, the dark valley is infested with evil, venomous, vile, dark, creepy critters, demons, evil spirits that are lurking in the shadows. Why would I not be afraid of them? Because he carries with him a rod. The purpose of that rod, what David did to knock out that bear when he came after, to take that shepherd's staff and smack that enemy over the head. He's a fearless warrior. And that's why we can face fear. And we can face the greatest fear, which is dying. You know, death is probably going to be the easiest thing that any of us ever do as a believer. Far harder will be those dark valleys of grief and pain that we have to walk in when others have died than we've been left behind. Far darker are the valleys of grief and pain that the life can fill us with heartache, and those are excruciating. But when death comes, there's going to be a grace to pass over on the other side. And you know what comforts me is knowing that my shepherd has been there and has experienced death and has come back to help me walk through it. I love the way one old saint described dying as like if you could interview a baby in a mother's womb. In that womb, there's comfort, there's security, there's warmth, there's familiarity. There's voices out there that may be kind and comforting. There's other voices that are scary. But in that womb, there's security. That's kind of like our life. We develop comfort and we feel secure in this life. And leaving that womb through the birth canal, what's on the other side? I mean, I've heard stories about it. I've heard noises. I've heard rumors. But what's on the other side? That baby's got to leave the security and comfort of the womb to enter into a whole new world. And what we do in death is we leave that kind of that place of security in this life, and we enter into a world and a realm that eye has not seen nor ear heard, neither has entered into the heart of man the things that God has prepared for those that love him. We're gonna, there's that apprehension, there's that uneasiness, but on the other side, waiting as when a baby comes in the world, it comes in the arms of the loving mother, loving father. So the sheep, when we pass through the dark valley, waiting on us is the shepherd to hold us into his arms. I will fear no evil. That's faith's declaration. In Jamie, I can't declare that. I've got all kinds of fear. But in faith, I can make the declaration, I can fear no evil. Why? Thou art with me. The Lord is my shepherd in the dark valley, in the place of grief, in the place of sorrow, in the place of death. He's my shepherd. He'll never leave me. He's your shepherd. Find that security in life, that when you're weeping, he's weeping with you. That when you're alone, feel abandoned, he's not absent. He's present. He's near. Let him love on you. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for being such a faithful Father, that our biggest fear, you've already faced it, defeated it, conquered it, and you give us the confidence that we will not have to fear. Lord, thank you that the valley is not a destination that you want us to live in. It's something we will pass through and we'll get through on the other side. Lord, bless the people that are in the middle of a valley right now, those that are just getting ready to go into one or those that are just coming out of one. Lord, bring encouragement in our groups. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless.